What's going on, guys? Let me know you're here. What's going on, guys? Good morning, good morning. Good morning. Everyone's popping in. Good morning, guys. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Samantha, Marina, Alexa. Yes, yes, yes. Hi, hi, hi. Give me a minute here. I'm going to pull up some notes while people are logging in. I will get the roll going in a little bit, maybe at the end of class. Colin, good morning. Let me get this real quick, guys. Sorry. Let's go. Where are my notes? Give me 1 second. 1 second. Okay. Cecilia, Angel, what up? What's going on, guys? Hey, a couple of things while we wait for other people to log in. Yes, that's a duck hanging on my wall behind me there. Don't ask to turn in assignments late. I'm just going to say no, unless you give me like a real good excuse. Like, I don't know, like I'm laying in my deathbed. Like there was a massive earthquake and my house fell to the ground. Something like that. Besides that, don't hit me up. Just tune into the next one, do the next assignment, stay on top. You miss one here, you miss one there. So be it. I mean, obviously do the math, right? Do the math. So there's roughly 16 weeks of instruction. We didn't necessarily have assignments all 16 weeks. I mean, the first week, I don't think we did anything. And maybe even the second week, I don't quite remember. But I think we're in week 7. We're almost halfway through the semester, believe it or not. It is October pretty soon here. I mean, do the math. If there's 2 assignments in roughly 15 weeks, 28 assignments, let's say 30 assignments, you miss 3 of those, that's 10% of your grade. You miss 6 of those, that's 20% of your grade. You miss 9 of those, that's 30% of your grade. So do the math, right? Do the math. You miss one, so be it. I mean, stuff happens. I'm not that concerned about it. I don't think you should be that concerned about it. You start to miss a lot, yeah, we're going to have an issue. And frankly, we're getting to the point in the semester where I'm probably going to go through grades and start figuring out who really isn't getting stuff done. Because if you're at 50% of assignments right now, what's going to change in the second half? I mean, you're already there, or you're not there, and you're not going to get there, if you catch my drift. So I might have to make some changes to the class roster, if you know what I mean. But so I would look, if you're at the bubble, if you're at a 50% right now, do the math. I mean, you might have to be 100% from here on out to pass the class, right? It's 100% participation, 100% getting the assignments done day in and day out. So just, make sure you get today's assignment done. It's not a difficult assignment. It just reinforces the stuff that we're talking about in class. Wednesday's assignment that you do on your own, again, just reinforcing the material that we're trying to get through in this kind of weird COVID world, which hopefully is changing. So just get through it. The other thing is, kind of off subject, but tomorrow night at 6:00, I don't know what channel, is the presidential debate, right? Joe Biden, Donald Trump, a couple of men going at it, fake news, all that stuff. Tune in. It's important, whatever your political persuasion is, you should still tune in. You should still hear the people out. You should still make a decision. You should still vote, especially if you plan on having an opinion or if you already have an opinion. Believing is one thing. Knowing factually is something completely different, right? So tune in, be an active citizen, be an active member. Babe, I'm in class right now. We have a visitor, and here she comes. Are you going to come say hi real quick, and then you got to go back inside? Say hi, everyone. No, say hi. Hi. All right, go back inside. Go. Bye. So, yeah, be active. Be a part of it. Be engaged, okay? With that said, I have my daughter crawling into my wife's car to probably try to find gum, is my guess. That's what happens. What are you trying to find?
My necklace with a bow on it.
Your necklace with a bow on it. All right, hurry up. Okay. All right, so let's get into it. So last week we started talking about STDs. Remember the numbers around STDs, super important, right? Your age. Between the ages of 15 and 24, number one source of disease. Think about it. Mom's purse is inside. Hanging up in the hallway right there. Go on. Have you had sex in the last 10 years? How many partners do you have? Multiple partners, right? These are all very important numbers. Have your activities been protected? Remember, the male condom reduces the risk of the fluid transmission, STDs transmitted fluidly by. Let me start over. The male condom reduces fluid transmissions, right, of STDs and STIs by up to 80%, by 50% in skin-to-skin transmitted diseases. Those are significant numbers, right? Numbers. Where do your numbers line up? Where do you stand in those numbers? Really, it's about your number of sexual partners and whether or not you're protecting yourself, right? How many times have you been tested? How many times do you get tested annually? Crucial too. Okay, so today we're going to talk about skin-to-skin transmitted STDs. We're not going to talk about all of them. We're only going to talk about the big ones, right? Can you guys please? No, I need you to go inside because I'm in class. Go inside. Thank you. Sorry. Go. Okay. So the first one being herpes, right? Or what we call HSV1 and HSV2. In other words, herpes simplex virus 1 or herpes simplex virus 2. Now, again, skin-to-skin transmitted, and all that means is you've come within 3 inches of the infected area. That's all that takes, right? And so obviously, depending on the situation, that 3-inch number is significant, right? Very, very significant, right? In other words, it's a small area to be around or in the middle of, right? If that makes sense. I don't know why there's people coming in and out of my garage right now. Okay. So HSV1 typically up top around the mouth in the form of a cold sore. Yes, if you've had a cold sore, you technically have herpes, right? Herpes simplex virus 1. Typically, one that is less, not as aggressive. In other words, a lot of people maybe get a cold sore once a year. Maybe they only had a cold sore maybe once or twice in their life. For the most part, in check, kept in check by your immune system. And if not, can be handled with topical medication that you can get over the counter. In other words, there are tons of cold sore medicines out there that you can get simply by walking into CVS or Rite Aid. Topical application kind of helps with the pain, the tingling, helps to quell or shorten the viral shedding period. And that term right there, which I'll type into your into the comments here, viral shedding, is very, very important. Viral shedding is the period in which the HSV virus becomes very, very transmittable. And most people don't understand that viral shedding period. In other words, the moment that tingling sensation or that burning sensation happens, that's the virus shedding. That very active period will go on through the healing process, even a couple days after the healing process. This is why most cases of HSV are transmitted by people who didn't know that they previously had it. In other words, the immune system had it suppressed during its incubation period. Maybe the lips started to tingle a little bit. You share a drink or kiss someone or share a straw or some other type of contact taking place. Sharing lip gloss, lipstick, things of that nature happen before you necessarily have the cold sore itself, before the blister itself pops up. Still highly, highly, highly contagious. How long can the incubation period take? Dude, there are people who have herpes, they've never, or cold sores, HSV1, they've never had an outbreak, and they have it. You're probably not going to pass it on if that's the case. But once that active viral shedding period takes place, that active sore starts to reveal itself and then be. Give me a minute. Sorry. Once that cold sore pops up, absolutely. And then after, while the cold sore is healing, that viral shedding period is still taking place. Cold sores are pretty common. I mean, which leads us to another stat. How many people have herpes? About 20% in the population. About 1 in 5 people have HSV1 or HSV2. Now, HSV1 typically takes place around the mouth, on the lips. HSV2 is typically what people refer to as herpes, blisters or a blister or groups of blisters in and around the penis, the vagina, the anus, and so on and so forth, the pubic area, right? HSV1 is typically a little bit more voracious. If you have HSV2 is a little bit more voracious. In other words, if you have herpes, genital herpes, you're typically going to have more outbreaks. But there's medication to quell those outbreaks. One of the name brands is what we call Valtrex. Valtrex is an oral medication that you take, I think, probably daily, that helps quell herpes and almost like keeps people from having no outbreaks. But again, all STDs and STIs will interact with your immune system. So maintaining a strong immune system, maintaining a good diet, exercising, things of that nature will help keep herpes in check. another thing to note, not only are both HSV1 and HSV2 highly contagious, especially during the viral shedding period, they're interchangeable. In other words, you can have HSV1 down there and you can have HSV2 up here. So having sex on an active herpes outbreak is as dangerous as one can be. You are almost sure to get it. Not that you'll react to the same way the person who gave it to you is reacting. In other words, it's very possible that your body keeps it in check and you don't have a cold sore or you don't have a herpes outbreak, but that's pretty rare. If you get herpes, you will most likely show signs of it, right? And once again, there is no cure. Once you have HSV in your system, you'll have it in your system the rest of your life. However, we do have medication that helps kind of put that in check, if that makes sense, okay? So again, the big number is 1 in 5. 1 in 5 people have it. How do you know you have it? Obviously, the blister. What's the test for it? The test for it is visual. I mean, if you walk in and you're like, doctor, I got this rash on my hoo-hoo, the doctor's going to say, let me see it. But a blood test will determine what strand it is, whether it's HSV1 or HSV2. Okay. And again, it can be up north and down south. Worst case scenario, ladies, you guys, unfortunately, you got a lot going on down there. You would, if you're not honest with your doctor about your sexual activity, you could pass it on to your child. So what do I mean by that? Let's fast forward to your pregnancy. You get pregnant, you find out you're pregnant, you go to the doctor. He's going to test you for everything: HIV, cervical cancer, STDs, STIs. You're going to go through the whole gamut. If you are engaging in sex during your pregnancy, which is fine, you can have sex while you're pregnant. But if you're having unprotected sex, especially with someone who has herpes, and you're not telling your doctor about this and maybe getting another test, if you have an active herpes outbreak during the birthing process, you can absolutely pass it on to your child. It can get in their eyes, it can get in their spinal cord, it can cause neurological damage just simply because their immune systems aren't prepared for this. So I got a question here. So someone has it, but it is not visible on the body. Is it still contagious, for lack of a better term? By and large, no. In other words, people who have herpes or have cold sores can shoot the gaps, right? In other words, refrain from sexual activity during your outbreak. Take your medication. When the sore goes away, after a couple of days, you can probably engage in regular sexual activity and you're going to be fine. But that's not 100% sure. In other words, if you have, let's say you're a female and you have herpes, genital herpes, I would pretty much have your partner wear a condom all the time, unless, of course, you guys are actively trying for children. But I would also be on a Valtrex medication or any other medication that your doctor recommends to help quell that those outbreaks and to slow and decrease that viral shedding period. So, Abiel, your question, it's kind of a loaded question. Yes, there are times during the viral shedding period where the sore is not visible and you are contagious. You can transmit. But there are times where the virus isn't shedding. You have no outbreaks, you have no sores, you kiss someone, they're not going to get anything, right? So that's kind of a loaded question. What's important is protecting yourself, being honest with your partner, having yourself checked out, staying on your medication, but more importantly, understanding the cycle of the virus. In other words, typically before a herpes outbreak takes place, there's a tingling sensation or an itching sensation that takes place first. That is the virus shedding. That's the beginning of the blister, of the outbreak, and then the blister heals, and then the sore goes away, and then you're kind of back to normal again. So Again, just be honest with your partner, take your medication, and be safe, right? Be safe. Okay, so we talked a little bit last week about HPV, the human papillomavirus. Who has it? All of us. I mean, you've probably have a wart now, or you've had a wart somewhere when you were a kid. You had one on your finger, your knee, your foot, the bottom of like a plantar's wart. Those are all HPV. Not all are transmitted sexually, and even a fewer number of the ones that are transmitted sexually are the ones that cause cancer. However, this virus, once you have it, you will always have it. For the most part, your body will keep it in check. If you have warts, over time, what will happen is your body will quell them. They'll most likely go away. How do you find out you have them? The same way you would find out you have anything. You look down one day and you go, what the hell is that? Right? You go to the doctor and he goes, oh, well, it's HPV. What do you want me to do about it? You want me to take this off? You want me to freeze it off? Do you want me to burn it off? Or do you just want to wait for it to go away? With the exception for females, again, they got to test the cervical tissue with a Pap. They're looking for an abnormal test result. In other words, they see abnormal cellular structure on your cervix. That is precancerous, right? So getting the Pap is crucial because the cervix is crucial. The cervix is crucial to taking your child to full term. The cervix is at the bottom of the uterus, right? You have your ovaries, you have your fallopian tubes, you have your uterus. At the bottom of the uterus is the cervix, right? This is a thin, layered tissue that when you begin to have contractions, right? So let me lower this a little bit. So yeah, that's an old school Nintendo behind me. You get contractions up at the top of your rib cage, pushing the child down towards the vaginal canal, towards the birth canal. Okay. When your water breaks, what that is, it's a plug. It's the mucus plug coming out of the cervix area, and that begins what we call effacement. In other words, the tissue begins to thin and spread out and open up, allowing for the child to enter the birth canal. It's important that this tissue is strong and held together well. Cervical cancer will almost always result in a compromised cervical tissue, if not because of the disease, because of the treatment. In other words, if you have a good amount of cervical tissue that becomes cancerous, the doctors are going to go in and lance that. They're just going to cut it out, right? So look at it this way. You're holding a wine bottle upside down and you start chipping away at it with a knife. At some point, the wine's just going to fall out. The cork's going to give way. The wine's going to spill all over the floor. It's the same kind of concept with taking your child to full term. And you want to take your child to full term. The very precious tissues, the eyes, the heart, the lungs, the liver, the pancreas, the blood, all of these things, the kidneys, they all develop late term. They don't develop early. They develop late in the pregnancy. That's why premature births are so dangerous, right? They're dangerous. Children can come out not ready for the real world, which scientifically, biologically, we are constantly interacting with the environment. Your immune system is constantly being tested and challenged. And if you don't have those precious tissues to filter your blood, to use fat for fuel, to burn carbohydrate, to synthesize proteins and lipids and things of that nature, then you're not ready to live, right? You're not ready to live. So again, being tested and having HPV, it's not the end of the world. Like I said, 70% of the population has HPV, but getting tested and making sure that you're taking all the required safety requirements is important, not only to the health of you, but to the health of your children, and your loved ones, right? Okay, lastly, syphilis. Right? Syphilis. Syphilis is a bacteria. It's a bacteria, again, passed on with skin-to-skin contact. Syphilis, that bacteria, what it'll do, it'll cause a sore, and that sore, believe it or not, is painless. In other words, your body just gets a sore. It just, and by sore, we're talking about opening, right? So the difference between syphilis and herpes and HPV is HPV is closed. It's a wart, right? It's not necessarily open skin. Now that wart can transmit with skin to skin contact, but it doesn't necessarily lead you open to other fluid transmitted STDs, whereas herpes and syphilis can, because now you have an open sore. In other words, now if fluid hits that open sore and that fluid is infected, let's say infected semen hits herpes or a syphilis sore on your vagina or on your mouth, in your mouth, on your tongue. Now that infected semen has a way to transmit. So this is one of the reasons why STDs have a tendency to run in groups. There are just some STDs that leave you susceptible to further STD transmission. So anytime we have that open sore, not a good thing. How do you know you have syphilis? That sore may not, it's painless. There's no pain associated with it. So there may be times where you have a sore and you don't know you have it. It's in your vagina, underneath your penis. Maybe it's in the back of your mouth. You just don't feel it. If syphilis goes on, ultimately what will happen, you'll get a rash on the palms of your hands. Now, this is where things get a little crazy, because the palms of your hands are probably the most resilient tissue you have. In other words, they're constantly regenerating. They're constantly exposed to bad things, yet they do just fine. If you're so immune compromised that you get a rash on the palms of your hands, whether it's syphilis related or not, you now have significant immune issues, and you need to get that taken care of. Syphilis ultimately will kill you if it goes untreated. Syphilis will transmit transport in the blood to other tissues, mainly the heart, but also the brain, and will damage it. It will cause brain damage. In other words, you can go crazy. In the 1500s, the 1600s, and 1700s, if you contracted syphilis, you died of either heart failure or cognitive failure, right? Because it will damage neurological tissue, it will damage heart tissue, so on and so forth, right? The good thing is syphilis, the highest rates of transmission that we see in syphilis today are actually with men having sex with men, and it's not a gay issue. There's no gay diseases out there. It can transmit between females and females, males and males, males and females, and it can transmit across all types of people. It doesn't matter who you're attracted to or who you're having sex with. But it is important to note that syphilis, for the most part, has been on the decline the last 15, 20 years. However, lately we're seeing a small uptick in all STDs. And there's been a real lax attitude about sex and sexual partners in the last 5-10 years, especially with social media. With hookup sites, things of that nature, people just having real casual sexual relationships with people, not necessarily being in a committed relationship, right? So we're seeing an uptick in a lot of STDs. As a matter of fact, almost all STDs are starting to go back up on the rise, believe it or not, after literally over a decade of almost all of them decreasing. So again, wear a condom, for Christ's sake. 80% reduction in fluid transmitted diseases, 50% reduction in skin transmitted diseases. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Wear a rubber, and keep your sexual partners to a minimum. Okay. Today's assignment. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to pick one STD. One STD. I want you to look it up, and I would go to the CDC website. That's the Center for Disease Control. And I just want you to look up 3 stats. I want you to look up And this will probably be annually, but it could be active right now. It doesn't matter. I just want you to start looking at the numbers, right? I want you to find out how many global cases there are of that particular STD, national cases, and local cases, right? So you might have to go to a couple different websites. The time in this assignment is going to be in the research. It's not going to be in you actually answering it. So pick herpes, right? Globally, there's this many people with it or this many cases. Nationally, there's this many people with it or this many cases annually, or whatever timeline they give you. And then you might have to go on the local Santa Barbara County website. How many cases of herpes or whatever STD you choose do we have? And just start to look at some of the numbers, right? Because that's, numbers are measurable, right? And ultimately that's what health is. Look at your numbers. What's your body weight? What's your body composition? In other words, how much body fat do you have? What's your cholesterol? What's your resting heart rate? What's your maximum heart rate? How many sexual partners have I had? All of these are measurable numbers that correlate to certain end results, right? In other words, if you're 58 with super high blood pressure, super high body fat, a really high bad cholesterol, and a really low good cholesterol numbers, I mean, you probably have heart disease. I mean, that's just what it comes down to. And we can correlate that pretty significantly. And we do it all the time. And we hear about these numbers all the time. We just choose to ignore them. But the same things with STDs. I mean, you can bank on the fact that the more partners you have and the less protected sex you have, you can start to put those numbers together, at least in your mind, of, do I have an STD? Should I go get tested? And if you've had multiple partners and you've had unprotected sex, yeah, you probably should. I'm not saying that you do have an STD, but it's highly likely that you at least have something like HPV, which again, it's not a death sentence, but it's common, but it's not a death sentence. Okay. Watch the debates tomorrow night. Educate yourself about something. Okay. Don't just hate Trump or think Biden is a dummy. That narrative is played out. That narrative is played out. There's people on one side, doesn't matter if Trump's an idiot, or if he's a jerk or a racist or a misogynist. Doesn't matter for some people. For other people, doesn't matter that Biden is this or that. I mean, dig in. What time is it starting? I believe it's 6 p.m. I believe it's 6 p.m. I think I saw it said 9 p.m. Eastern time. So that means 6 p.m. our time. And it's probably going to be on a couple of channels. Just, Google it, search it in your Amazon Fire Stick or whatever you got, DirecTV, whatever it is. Okay. So your assignment, pick one STD, find out the number of national cases, number of global cases, number of local cases. Just type it in. Real simple. Okay. Make sure you stay on Wednesday's assignment. Until then, from the garage, I'm out. Later.